On the one hand, we have caste, an incredibly politicized demarcation of society, which first appears in India during the colonial period. Then, on the other hand, we have jati, varna, and other ways of stratifying society, which are indigenous and existed prior to the arrival of the colonizers. Panditji, can we start off with you? If you could explain the difference between all these terms.
Wonderful place to start. And in fact, this is probably the one area which is the most responsible for much of the confusion, the conflation of terms, the misunderstanding of terms. One person says caste when they mean jati, one person says birth when they mean hereditary. And so all of these have contributed to the current confusion. And in that confusion, an awful lot of harm has been done. So it's a great place to start. Now, caste is the title of the talk, and caste is where you've started. Caste means class. It is the Portuguese word. It simply means class, as applied to species, as applied to categorizations of human beings. For example, in the Americas, caste paintings exist where they depict a mulatto as a particular caste and all sorts of categorizations. But in essence, it means class. And that could actually be the beginning and end of all of these conversations. If the authorities and the activists and those who want to push legislation into place were to abandon the word caste, which is Portuguese, and adopt the word class, which is English, which is not an unreasonable request in terms of the languages that we're all using, then everything would be okay. But that's not what people want. They want this word caste. And there is a reason behind that, and we have seen this demonstrated. Caste is no longer an adjective. It's become a brand, and it's become a negative brand. It's become a hate brand. And attached to it is a mountain of verbiage and literature, atrocity literature, all sorts of things, and they're all attached to this one word, caste. And that is why they won't let go. So this is not about justice. The moment you transpose if you change the word caste into class, it all disappears. And you can't then hang it around just the Hindu community. You can't then make it about India. But justice would be dispensed. If the word class was in place, justice would be dispensed if discrimination occurred. And I've raised this point with legislators and politicians, and they always look blankly because there is no answer to it. And the intention I deduce from that particular point is that there is malice behind this. And that then opens up the exchange and the conversation. We do not have an equivalent word. There was an attempt to try and define this word caste as hereditary, hierarchical, and endogamous. That's what the British institutions tried to establish with it. Although that's not a definition that's been universally accepted. And we do not have a phenomenon of a hereditary hierarchical social structure behind a particular word to identify it. We have jati, which is akin to guilds. They're the mechanism whereby knowledge and expertise and skills are transferred generation to generation, people to people. They're the repositories of civilizational knowledge. We have Varna, and Varna is very clear. The closest word that I can find to Varna is probably archetypes or attribute-based archetypes. And then we have a whole host of others, more precise with each one, Kul, Parampara, the other groupings that we use, Gotras and so on and so forth. And each of those has its own meaning, but none of them are actually relevant to this particular conversation. So I hope that's made things a little clearer.
No, it has. It's great. Deepika ji, is there anything you want to add to that?
Of course, Panditji has explained this beautifully. When we get into discussion of how jatis fit within the Varna structure, which I think is really important when we talk about the lived reality of life in India, I also wish to say this pyramidical hierarchical structure actually, a lot of it has been imposed by foreigners describing India. So one of the first accounts is Al-Biruni, then Abul Fadl under Akbar does it, because remember, the Mughals are primarily foreigners at that point, and they're trying to describe India like this strange place which they have to codify and taxonomize, which the British do later in the 18th and 19th century also. So these are foreigner gazes on India in which they're trying to understand the complexity of millions of people's lives in an extremely diverse country. And they do it in the simplest and most rudimentary form. And unfortunately, the Indian state and all Indian pedagogy about and academic attempts about India adopt those foreign descriptions of what India is as being the truth about India.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.